Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day, and it's time for current events. So basically, we got AMC Theaters not willing to book any movies from Universal because Universal did what they felt they had to do and release some of their movies early to digital because of the coronavirus. Now, I think that is a very stupid thing to do, especially if you are trying to make money. Now, the thing that I think is stupid is AMC's not booking Universal. I mean, you don't limit yourself because of a company trying to survive. You don't limit yourself because a company is trying to do what it can to stay afloat. Also, they knew people were going to be shut inside, so the best thing that they decided to do was to give people the opportunity to see these movies because they weren't able to by going to a theater. So AMC doing this is stupid, in my opinion. They're limiting their potential market because Universal movies can bring in a lot of dough. I mean, yes, I know that theaters, when airing movies and booking movies, they only get like $1 off of the ticket, but still, it's still money in your pocket. You don't limit yourself because you're pissed off that somebody decided to keep their company afloat in order to help people stay inside and safe. So yeah, for those of you who are just joining me, thank you. I see I have 2 people watching. Myriosphere Origin, how you doing? I'm basically doing another current event stream. I do these randomly. I ramble. I do these I do them randomly and whatnot. Well, if Universal makes good movies, then they do not go woke. Movie creators will regret not showing their movies if no one comes for the woke BS. And yes, definitely hail to Marius here. And you're right, Mar. The thing is, movies have been going woke, and it's a damn shame. I'm sick of the woke nonsense. I'm sick of the woke bullshit. And I've actually called out people for it, or called out companies. I've gone on Twitter, and I'm not afraid to tag people. Hey, Ben, I did a rant about Karen Kennedy fucking up Galaxy's Edge. Yeah, that's another thing I'm actually going to address today in this current event stream. But yeah, if you guys know me on Twitter, you guys know that I'm going to, or I have no problem tagging somebody I have a problem with. And I mean, recently today, or a few days ago, I asked some guy that's been trolling the Phantom Menace, damn, your avatar looks so sexy. Well, let's put it up there, folks. Yeah, that does look kind of cool. Looks like it's from the Old Republic game. Looks like a new armor, because I haven't seen that one before. But yeah. But there's this guy going after that Tug's life from the Phantom Menace. Tugs, as everybody knows her. I've had limited interaction with Tugs. I've only seen her on streams. I haven't really streamed with her. But one of the things I have, or many of the things that I've observed about her, yeah, I hear you, Myriosphere. It is starting to get very toxic there too. But there are some good people on Twitter. I will say that. I'm pretty much taken, or have taken, a leave of absence from Facebook because I can't stand the crap there, and I basically did a tirade there as well. But back to the whole Tug situation. She actually acknowledged me on this too. I mean, we don't really acknowledge, or we're not in the same social circle, so to speak. But she's one of the people that engages with others if she respects them, and that's awesome. And one of the things is, this guy basically says, oh, she has female privilege. That's why people are voting for her for the Fandom Menace card thing that's going on Twitter. Me, I don't care if I get a Fandom Menace card. I mean, it's cool. Hey, cool if I do, cool if I don't. I honestly don't care. But I'm also going to vote for whoever I think is at the time the most deserving. I mean, they had a person, or they had a couple of people that I like, but they wanted me to vote for one person, and I'm like, I'm voting for the other person. I think that person at this time is most deserving. I'm not going to name names, but in this tweet, I also explained to the guy, she's been nothing but nice to me. I mean, we threw a couple jokes back and forth together. I was in the chat of a live stream, and she joked back. First, didn't think she was joking, but yeah. And happy day to you too, Happy Dino. But she's humble, and that's why I respect Tugs. I respect any YouTuber who is humble. Meaning, if your subs skyrocket in a very short time, and you are still engaging with as many subs as you can on day-to-day basis, including the ones that really helped you get to where you are, I'll have nothing but respect for you. Unless you do something to be stupid. But if you say, get a bunch of subs because a couple of bigger channels shouted you out and brought you into their circle, and then you basically forget those smaller channels that helped you get where you were and actually got their, or helped you get their attention in the first place, and then you basically just shit on the little guy afterward because now you're a big name and the fame's gone to your head, not even going to fucking touch your channel. I'll unsubscribe to it in a heartbeat because you have no respect and your foundation is only going to rot underneath you. And yes, I'm not going, or I know a channel that has done that. People still fawn over that channel, but you know what? That's because they like that person's content. She does great content. I'm not going to name who. Yes, I just named the gender. But you know what? That person lost my respect when they decided to shit on the people who have helped them get to where they are. That's all I'm saying. Stay humble. Engage with your community. All of your community. That is why I do my best to read all the relevant messages when I'm doing streams. When I'm doing my versus streams, I won't highlight as many chats. But the thing is, it's because if it's a stimulating conversation, I'm in that mode. That's one of the things with my autistic mind, people. If I am stimulated enough in a intellectual conversation during the versus streams, I'm sorry, the chat sometimes gets tuned out. But I do pay attention to it every now and then. So if you guys put up, or in my versus streams, if you guys have something useful to put into to contribute, I will highlight it and I will address it when I get the chance. I do my best with what I got. I only got a Kindle and a phone. That's it. Kindle on a phone, people. That's why I don't have all the screen sharing stuff that other people will do on their live streams. That's why I can't do all the screen or the other screen sharing things. When somebody wants to screen share on my live streams, I can share their stuff. I can't do it on a Kindle. That's just the way it is. I can't. Now, also, the other, or if you are just joining, I am covering current events. I basically am covering two things today. One was the AMC theaters, and the other one is what I'm just going to get into. But my final thoughts on the AMC theaters: if the AMC theaters are going to shut off a major studio like Universal, then they're doomed to fail. I mean, yes, you can go to the indie or to the independent movies and whatnot, and of course you can mooch off of and simp for Disney and Marvel, but will that sustain you? Especially since Marvel and Disney and them love to take 90% of the take for the first 2 weeks of releasing a movie. And then you can get like a little bit more money. That's why they have such high cost in their concessions. I've had this explained to me by 3 people. The theater owner that owns the theater in the town I live at, the person who runs the theater in the town that I live at, and Odin's Movie Blog. Great channel. If you want to learn about box office and learn about how theaters run and whatnot, he's the kind of guy to listen to. He knows more about theaters than anything that I know. I just go to him. Now, isn't AMC like burning or buying already? So if they cut off Universal, or burning, yeah, if they cut off Universal, I don't think that'd be a smart move at all. You're right. It's not smart at all. Maria's here. It's not. I'm just going to call you Miria for short. Is that all right? But yeah. Oh man, now I see I wrote theaters with C instead. That's all right. Instead of the dang, never go to a live chat when you just fell out of bed. I hear you, Mar. If you're tired, man, get some sleep, dude. But you probably overslept. I mean, what time is it right now? It's probably almost 7 o'clock at night where you are. But yeah, one of the things that I'm also going to cover on my current events. Sorry, I'm having a lot of ADHD moment. I'm not medicated for it because I decided to purge my medication regimen because it's not working very well. Yeah, so you're 6 hours ahead of me, so not 5 hours. You're 6 hours. Okay. Thank you, Mar. But yeah. Mary's Fair Origin is the name of the multi-version in the book series I am reading. Nice! That's awesome, man. Thing is, I'm actually writing, or was writing a story. Yeah, it's same here, Happy. I'm actually was writing a story too, and I'll actually get into that a little after I'm done the current event. I'll actually let you guys know the story that I started to write. It's a Greek myth thing. But basically, the next bit of current events is Disney. And Disney or Kathleen Kennedy, that wretched woman, not going to swear, not going to drop that F-bomb yet. Let's just say that she thinks that the original trilogy, the OT, is for 50-something people, or 50s-something aged people. Kathleen Kennedy, to you I say this, I'm fucking 35, bitch. I have family members who are younger than me in their teens who love the original trilogy. I've shown them the despecialized edition, the special edition, and then the Disneyfied edition. Guess what one they liked best? They liked the original unspecialized edition, despecialized. They loved that one. I did too. I loved the despecialized edition. Han shot first, goddammit. The special edition, as cool as the newer special effects are, they didn't age well. So, yeah, I like the special edition, but there's only so much you can go there. So if you think that, or you got freaking Miriam here, he's 33. You got Happy Dinosaur, he's 20. They all like the original trilogy stuff because Galaxy's Edge was originally going to be a Star Wars land that had places like Tatooine, a desert area, and possibly some other things. But then Kathleen Kennedy's like, yeah, that's just for a bunch of 50-somethings to relive their nostalgia. Star Wars is going to be for something greater for this newer generation. Fuck this newer generation. Have you seen the Disney trilogy? It's now $9.99 each on Amazon. On sale, of course. They're going to go back to their charging an arm and a leg for it later. But right now, you can get all of the Disney trilogy for $9.99 each. That's $29.97. And if you ask me, that's $29.97 more than they're worth. I'm sorry, as an objective and subjective and a very passionate Star Wars fan, I'm going to tell you now, they are not good. They insulted the legacy of George Lucas. They didn't follow this Star Wars formula, for Christ's sake. You plan this shit out years in advance. You don't put this shit, plan it, and whatnot, and then just, oh, we'll do it one thing at a time. No! You have, excuse me, I got the hiccups. You have the whole thing planned out, cohesive story, and then you shoot them in segments, like George Lucas did with episodes 1 through 6. That is how you make Star Wars awesome. This new shit that they got with this High Republic, which I think is basically Coruscant on cannabis, is ridiculous. I like the redesigns that Steve Walton is doing, although that one guy with the He-Man looking outfit with the big saber with the crossguard, not energy crossguard, but a crossguard, that guy looks more like he would be a Berserker Sith Lord. But the other ones that he did with the redesigns, I thought Stephen Walton did a great job. So yeah, shout out to my boy Stephen Walton, even though he's not my boy, but he's a great guy, part of the Phantom Menace. And he also wrote the novels to the Phantom Menace, and is writing another one, I believe. But yeah. But Kathleen Kennedy is such a horrible person. She lied about this Star Wars trilogy. Luke is going to be so pivotal in episode 8. What does he do what does he do? Get over here, you little shit. What does he do with his father's lightsaber, the most prized thing of the Skywalker legacy? Throws it. Just fuck it. Don't care. Reminds me of Daz Black's little comedy vine that he did. When you're a student, homework, not doing it. Rent, or adult life, rent, not paying it. When you're homeless out in the street, yeah, you fucked up. Because you decided to be stupid. That's basically what Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm is doing right now. I mean, the only good thing that they did, and I maintain this, the only good thing that they did thus far, Rogue One. The Mandalorian is passable, but those aren't Mandalorians. I prefer the EU Legends Mandalorians. You know, the ones that didn't go pacifist pussies and turned the fucking Death Watch, a group that was kicked out of the Mandalorian culture because they were too savage. They went overboard when they didn't need to and made them the real Mandalorians. Fuck Disney. Fuck the Clone Wars. And in this case, because this was George Lucas's creative difference of Mandalorians, in this case, I'm about to go blasphemy, folks. Fuck George Lucas with his shtick of Mandalorians. I'm sorry. I'm a Karen Traviss Mandalorian lover. I like Karen Travis's Mandalorians better than I like George Lucas's Clone Wars Mandalorians. Because those Mandalorians I could identify with. I'm not a pacifist. I don't believe in that bullshit. If somebody's going to come at me aggressively, I'm going to meet their aggression. Of course, I'm going to try to dissolve the situation first. But if it can't be, they're going to wish they never did. You know? Yes, they tried Nostalgia, part 2. Yeah, fucking Nostalgia. Or 3. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Wait, let's put even more Nostalgia in, is basically what they did for part 3. I mean, I wish they had gone Trevorrow's episode 9. I really do. If they had gone Trevorrow's episode 9, it would have freaking skyrocketed the mythos of Star Wars and had a way better understanding. Luke coming in, grabbing Kylo's lightsaber, that would have been freaking phenomenal to see. And there's only one way that he would have been able to do that. And that's if the bad guy is the Son, because we are dealing with people who can grab lightsabers. Well, the only way that Luke would have been able to do that was with the help of the daughter possessing him to help him fight back against evil. You know, Luke was treated so badly. Everybody knows by now that the interview with Luke or George Lucas and Kathleen Kennedy, where George Lucas was handing over the reins. We're going to protect these characters. We need to treat them with all the respect that George Lucas had creating them. You fucking lying bitch. Yeah, Kathleen Kennedy, you're a lying bitch. You have no respect for anything when it comes to Star Wars that George Lucas owned. You were willing, and more than willing, to jump onto the let's get rid of these characters that everybody loves. Let's introduce new characters that nobody knows, and you automatically expected us to like them? That's not how it works. So yeah, build your stupid Galaxy's Edge that was complete bullshit and nobody liked, where you were able to build lightsabers that broke before you even got out of the theme park, and you paid $250 to make them. I'll tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to pay $250 for a product that's going to break before the day is out. I'm not going to go to a theme park and support that theme park by giving them my money when I have been numerous times insulted by their employees. Now, it's not the fault of the lower employees. No, it isn't. It is the fault of the people who run the corporation. It is their fault. And yeah, 200 plus, yeah, no way in hell. The thing is, when I get my stimulus check, I am actually going to get a $200+ lightsaber, but it's going to be one from Ultra Sabers. Because I actually want one of those motherfuckers. They come with dueling capability and all that stuff. You can customize your own stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely going to go to Ultra Sabers and possibly get a, possibly even get the Mandalorian Darksaber, because that looks badass too. But anyway, this nonsense that Disney Star Wars is doing, I have no interest in it. That's why I haven't been doing videos on it, folks. I have found that I am burnt out trying to follow stuff that I once cared for. I'm actually burning out on YouTube. But I found that I do like to do the versus streams. I do like to do the current events. And sometimes I do the videos. Once this whole COVID-19 crisis passes, I'm going to do a lot more videos. But I can't go out because my internet sucks here. So when I'm if I try uploading here, it's a minute to an hour ratio. 1 minute of the video is an hour to upload for the current Wi-Fi. of my landlady. I live with my landlady because I help her look after mentally handicapped people. So, yeah. So that's why I go to places like the library, the theater, and whatnot. They have far better Wi-Fi. I do what I can to bring you guys good content. And I'm one of the most humble people out there. Hail Fenrir Fire. How you doing, man? And yeah, Miria, $200. Yeah, no way in hell. You're damn right, man. They gave us no reason to like them other than them being diverse. The thing is, the original trilogy was diverse. True that they might not have had the most diverse cast when it came to the main cast and whatnot. I mean, yeah, you had all sorts of people, but still, if you look around the original trilogy, you will see black people, you'll see all sorts of colored people, and otherwise. You'll see all sorts of different ethnicities. But Disney doesn't want to acknowledge that. Gary from New York, geek culture is hungry for good stories and something new. Why I, with my brother, am working on a 6-book series. Yeah. Now that I've covered that stuff, basically I am going to give you guys a small hey, Soul Assassin, thank you for plugging Ultra Sabers, by the way. They're a great place to get lightsabers. Yes, they're costly, but you're getting good quality, folks. Now, as I was saying, or as I said I would do, basically, a few years ago, I was writing a Greek mythology story. And this Greek mythology story was called Overseer of Olympus. Now, everybody knows the Percy Jackson story, right? Everybody knows the God of War story. Everybody knows the whatchamacallit stories. This is nothing like those, but it's also semi-like those. There's no Camp Half-Blood. There's no demigods. This is a story that takes place in today's time. That's the only thing it has to do with, or that's the only thing it has in common with Percy Jackson, other than Typhon is also going to be in it as a big bad. But my story is basically Greek myth flipped on its head. You see, there's two sides to every argument. And history is written by the victors. The Great War of the Gods and the Titans back in Greek myth, well, the gods won that battle. And I might have the internet cut out on me, folks, just so you know. But I'm going to keep going just in case. Now, the character I had written was named Dicastus. I call him a Titan god, but to more accurately put it, he's a demi-Titan. He is Ouranos' son. Ouranos is, or as the Romans call him, Uranus. But Ouranos, it's how they pronounce it. He is the chief creator Titan. He created it all. And then there was Gaia, Mother Earth, and all of them. Well, Ouranos was not in the great battle of the Titans and gods when the Titans were overthrown. But after that field of battle was abandoned, when you have monumental forces clashing, you have cast-off energy. And each and every one of these gods and goddesses were fighting in this thing, including Aphrodite. She was also fighting there, too. So she knows how to fight. All of them were fighting. Hold on. Yeah, thought so. That's something to imitate. But anyway, Ouranos has reconstituted himself and collected all of that cast-off energy, all that residual energy that was left behind. And he brings it to the temples of the three fates. Now, this was all in a novel that I was writing, and it was going to be a series of, I believe, 6 novels. Is basically how, or 4 to 6 novels. Now, he goes to the 3 fates who are loyal to him, but also loyal to his work. Meaning, if he overshadows or if he contraries to his work, they will not abide him. But anyway, he gives them a thread, or he gives them the energy, and he tells them to infuse a thread. Now, everyone knows who the 3 fates are: one who weaves, one who spins, and one who cuts the threads of life. And he says, do not activate this thread until the right time, until I have found somebody worthy enough to carry it. And how you doing, Fenrir? The thing is, folks, originally I was writing this into 2013, and DeCastis was living in DeCastis is his son, the main character, who is the Demi-Titan. He lives in this small rural town, kind of like the one I live in right here. But I called it Terra Lake instead of Tupper Lake. And it's basically based on my town. Now, with a couple of differences, of course. There's a place where DeCastis works called the Hunting Lodge. And it's basically a sports lodge, hunting and fishing, boating, all that stuff. Basically all the stuff that people do up here. And as he's getting ready to go to work, his mom makes him his favorite breakfast. He's just turned 19. His father's a no-show. He doesn't know who his father is. But he does have he does know that there's something different about him. He just doesn't know what it is. So as he's getting ready to go, he sees a woman moving in next door or across the street. Now this woman is Artemis, my favorite Greek goddess. And she's moving in. He's immediately smitten with her and whatnot. So yeah, he falls in love, he helps her, and then he meets her father. Now, here's the thing. Ever notice how everything wrong that happened to the ancient Greeks was mostly caused by Zeus not keeping it in his pants? Yeah, very true, man. Very true. Very true. And Zeus is an antagonist in my story, because Zeus wants this guy dead because he knows of a prophecy that there's going to be an overseer of Olympus. He thinks that he misperceives it as a conqueror of Olympus. So he wants this person dead. He just needs to know exactly who, and then he'll go about doing it. This story I had a prologue, basically, of how everything that goes on in the world can be attributed to the Greek gods today. Everybody remembers the Hunger Games, right? How there was such a huge boom of interest in archery. Well, Artemis is the Greek goddess that her favorite weapon of choice is the bow, as is Apollo, her twin brother. Everybody remembers the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, where they had where they were forging real weapons for these movies. And they still do forge weapons for collectibles and whatnot. Hephaestus. You got a bunch of dating sites out there. You think that, you honestly think that Aphrodite wouldn't have a touch of, or wouldn't have a foot in that field or in that pond? A lot of the stuff. I mean, Tornado Alley in the United States, folks, that stretch of land from down south up ways, Tornado Alley. Well, Zeus, yeah. All those hurricanes, blame it on Poseidon and whatnot. It's population control. And all the different gods and goddesses have their different roles to play. And it was a fun novel. I mean, I've actually passed it out to a couple of people, and they liked it. It wasn't finished. And so Artemis is basically spying for Zeus. She knows that this is potentially the guy that they were looking for. Now, I'm not going to get through the whole nitty gritty. I mean, she eventually starts falling in love with DeCastus. The first book was called Broken Oaths. Now, for those of you who know your Greek mythology, Artemis is a maiden goddess. She swore an oath to stay a maiden. She can't fall in love. She can't have sex. Well, let's just say that she does with DeCastus later on, but mostly out of a passionate moment because, well, her father kind of kills DeCastus's mother. I mean, this is going to have this has all the freaking stuff you could ever hope for in a story. Sex, freaking very brutal violence, action, revenge, love, all that shit. It's all in the story. I mean, Apollo literally goes to this guy, or to DeCastus, and beats the shit out of him in the store that he works at because he wasn't taking the hint to stay away from Artemis. I mean, DeCastus started to learn the truth of what was going on, and he was starting to use his abilities in subtle ways, and Artemis was testing him and able to do that. They actually had a little archery contest in the back of the store where they have, or the back lot of the store is basically an archery range. And for his birthday, he had an anonymous gift, which turned out to be the bow of Odysseus. Now, there's a lot of stuff that plays in this stuff, or into this story. Like, if you break certain oaths, there is a danger that is unspoken in Greek mythology. I cannot remember its name, but it's often not evoked because they fear that it will bring that thing straight to them. I'd buy that story for $25 in a crowdfunder. I mean, believe me, dude, if I ever do get the gumption to read this or to do this story, I would continue it because it's all up here. It's all up here. Yeah, the Sirens would have a nightclub. Thing is, the Sirens actually would play a small bit. If anybody knows the story of Athena and Arachne, that is I have a different take on that story too. That actually takes place. Now, later or after DeCastus is coming into his own, and he can't help his feelings for Artemis, and she starts to return those feelings. So, well, what's her name? Aphrodite comes in, and she tries to do her best to turn DeCastus away from Aphrodite, or away from Artemis. And the way that I see Aphrodite, the way that I perceive her, is she is perceived by others as their most lustful fantasy. So for a teenager, big boobs, blonde hair is how they would see Aphrodite. Well, that's not how DeCastus finds, or that's not what DeCastus prefers. Well, when Aphrodite comes in and Artemis and DeCastus are basically on just a coffee date, Aphrodite comes in telling him how she runs the most world successful dating app and this and that. But anyway, he goes to the bathroom and she follows him in, knowing that, or Artemis doesn't stop it because Artemis does not want DeCastus to stay in love with her. She's aware of her own oaths that she has taken. So basically, the way that Aphrodite can turn others away is through kissing them, making out with them, fucking them. Well, at first, DeCastus starts to succumb to it, but only at first. But then his abilities kick in to automatically defend himself because he still has a piece of Aphrodite's own energy from the Great War. He can he kind of develops an immunity to her charm, to her ability. She tries again, but he pushes her off, basically saying, I feel nothing for you. My heart belongs to her. And he leaves in a huff because he's pissed off because she just basically tried screwing around with him. And he says underneath his breath, fucking little slut, talking about Aphrodite. And that's when Apollo basically smacks into him for the first time. And he hits his head on the ground. He rolls over and sees Apollo about to put his fist through his face, but somebody smacks Apollo away, and that's when he blacks out. He wakes up at home, and he hears a voice that he doesn't recognize, but it's a voice that he somehow feels he should recognize, and that's actually his father, Ouranos, but then he takes off. I should also mention that Kronos, Kronos, not to be confused with the Titan Cronus, Chronus, is also in the story as Dicassus's godfather / uncle, so to speak, but technically brother because Kronos is actually Ouranos' son. But anyway, Kronos actually works at the hunting lodge, runs the hunting lodge, and Artemis is actually gets a job there as a new manager and whatnot. I mean, the Titans actually live on Earth, folks, in this book. The Titans are in hiding, not so to speak in hiding, but they also have an uneasy truth with the gods. And the gods Okay, sorry about that, folks. My Kindle basically just cut my internet for some reason. That was weird. But as I was saying, Kronos is Dicassus' godfather, and he's looking after Dicassus and his mother and whatnot. And there is a massive storm outside after Ouranos steps in and bitch smacks Apollo and knocks him down a few pegs. Well, Dicassus is also having dreams while he's asleep. He's having dreams of being in Olympus, overhearing some of these conversations between the gods. And Artemis is up there yelling at Apollo, as is Aphrodite and Zeus. They're all up there too, talking about how this guy is starting to push his luck when it comes to Artemis. And Zeus turns to Aphrodite saying, is she compromised? And she says to her, or she looks at Artemis knowing that she is, but she then looks to her father and says she's not compromised. She's still on mission. She knows that she can't, or she is aware of her oath and she will not break it. Well, later on she does, but as they are in that house, or he wakes up in that house back where he lives, and there is a massive storm that actually literally has bolts of lightning striking down around the road outside and around his property. But he knows that, but unbeknownst to him, that house is protected. The gods cannot see or do anything to that house as long as Dicassus' mother is alive. And so it's kind of freaking them out because there's nothing that can touch that house if it's from a god's power. And it drives them nuts that they can't even see inside the house either. But anyway, it's all described to him how there's a prophecy that a person will come to oversee Olympus so that it no longer directly influences humanity. Now, he's like, I didn't want this. And Kronos tells him, nobody ever does. Nobody ever wants this kind of responsibility. How could they, especially when it's beyond their scope? Now, Decastus, again, he is a demi-titan. He has the powers of the Titans, but he also has all the powers of the gods because of the power in his thread of life. Now, he can't willingly tap into it yet. That comes later on in the book. Now, he's still going to work and whatnot, and things are happening. And, well, Apollo has basically defied his father once by attacking Decastus, so he's going to do it again. And he shows up, and a person calls Decastus out because somebody asked directly for him, and it's Apollo. Shades. He looks like a surfboard Californian, basically. And he's like, you should have just fucking listened. And then he knocks Decastus all the way across the store through a bunch of aisles and whatnot. And Decastus is slowly realizing that barely hurt, but it still hurt enough. It shouldn't have hurt, or it should have hurt a lot worse, basically. But Decastus gets up, grabs 2 kayaks, and basically claps them against Apollo. Well, Apollo, being the god of the sun, can channel sunlight and can channel the heat of the sun if he wanted to. So as Decastus smacks him with the kayaks just start to slowly burn and melt. Basically, he's like, what else you got? And then he proceeds to just beat the shit out of Decastus. I mean, he has Decastus outside. I mean, Decastus did get some good shots in him. Don't get me wrong. In the book, he gets some solid shots. But it's basically a one-sided battle because this is Apollo having enough of this asshole going after his sister. So he actually brings him out, puts his head through a bunch of windshields and side windows to cars, and it's only after he's passed out and in the hospital that is where it fades to black, because he basically thinks that, or Apollo thinks that he's gotten the point across. Well, Decastus is in the hospital, and his mother is livid. And Artemis shows up, ashamed of what Apollo had done, and she sees that his mother is there, so she turns to leave to give them their privacy, and she's like, you stay. And she just goes off. She goes off on Artemis, saying if it wasn't for you and your stupid ass father, who's just a jealous piece of shit, she's basically insulting Zeus on a level hitherto undreamt of, basically, to put it like Doctor Strange. Well, while she's going off on Zeus, the wall to the hospital to that particular hospital room explodes with a bolt of lightning, and Zeus has basically had enough. Everybody knows Zeus is a jealous god. He will not be disrespected by mere mortals. And so he has absolutely had enough of her. And as Decastus sees this, he realizes the imminent danger, and Zeus basically says, I've had enough of your shit. He doesn't kill Decastus, he kills his mother. Hits her with a bolt of lightning straight through the chest. And that's it. Stops her heart. And Artemis tries to talk Zeus down, but he's not hearing it. And so he leaves after he realizes that he kind of fucked up. But he looks at Decastus with a look of just sheer contempt. But Decastus is focused on his mother because his mother was just killed. So skip ahead a week. He's laying his mother to rest. And Artemis has been trying to get a hold of Decastus, trying to apologize, trying to explain everything, and Decastus is just numb to it. He's like, why couldn't you just why did you have to come into my life? why, or it sucks that I am in love with one person that can't even understand what the concept of love is. It sucks that my mother is dead now and I can barely stomach what I am. At this point, DeCassis is just done. He wants nothing to do with anything, but he's still in love with Artemis. And Artemis, at this point, she completely just gives in. At this point, she gives in. And you should get back to writing that story, man. Very interesting and original. I bet you finish the series last year in G.R.R. Martin. Yeah, I'm thinking about getting back into it. I just need a laptop in order to do so. But, and you know what? Once my stimulus check comes in, I might actually get a laptop as well. But yeah. Anyway. So that was one of the hardest parts of the book that I had to write, by the way. Deflowering two virgins, so to speak. There was a sex scene in the book. It's not porn, or I didn't use porn terminology or anything like that, but it's basically in the book. And the next day, Aphrodite shows up while DeCassis is in the bathroom taking a piss. You know, postcoital relief. But he's like, or she tells him, I hope you know exactly what the fuck you're doing. You do not understand the consequences of what she has just done for you. Because Artemis had just violated her own oath of being a maiden goddess. And this will have consequences for her. Now, how you doing, Junebug? Good to see you. I understand the whole Universal management must have said something that pissed off AMC management. I don't think we know the full story. It's possible we don't. To be quite honest, it is possible we don't. So, yeah, let me highlight that. It is possible we don't know the full story. I don't know why this is taking so long to highlight shit. Anywho. But yes, Junebug, it is very possible we don't know the whole story. There we go. Now, back to the story that I'm talking about. Because DeCassis' mother has died, the protection over that house is starting to weaken. And Artemis says, because I know that you truly love her and you will not hurt her, and because she loves you, I will stall my father, because Zeus at this point realized Artemis never came back to Olympus. And he knows, and Aphrodite will have to report what she knows eventually. And it's only then that Ouranos shows up after they're all getting dressed and whatnot. And he's like, you need to come with me now. And there is no time to explain. Because right then the roof of the house is blown off. And it's basically another massive storm, except that the storm is no longer going to be, or the house is no longer under the protection of Ouranos' wife, DeCassis' mother's charm. So Ouranos transports them out of Terra Lake, using his power to get them away from it. And he brings them down, or to the coast, to the East Coast, a small little area where there's a boat. And he's like, take that boat, get out onto the ocean, you will have protection there. And once you are out into the ocean, you will be protected. Now, have you heard of the game Jump Force? No, I have not, Cameron Ryder. How you doing, by the way? Right now, I'm kind of just giving my thought, or giving my story, putting it out there for people to hear. And yes, folks, just so you know, this is a copyright story. I have actually looked into getting it copyrighted. So if you do try stealing my story, know that I also have the original draft documented and dated on my phone. So if anybody does try stealing this shit, I have a lawyer. And I'm not saying anybody in my chat will steal it right now. But believe me, there are some idiots out there who will try pulling this shit. But anyway, Apollo was there again, basically barring the way. He's like, where the hell do you think you're going? Why are you with him, Artemis, and whatnot? Well, at this point, Dicastus has had enough. And he actually catches Apollo off guard, planting his fist thoroughly into the diaphragm and twisting when he puts Apollo on his knees. And instead of going super brutal with that fight, it's just that one fight or that one hit where Dicastus hits Apollo so hard and so fast that he completely did not expect it, and was completely winded by it, to the point where he is doubled over in pain, because he basically, if he was a man, he would have shit himself because of the sheer force that Dicastus put in his gut. He probably would have had a complete intestinal evacuation. Now, they get out into the water, and everybody would think, well, Poseidon would easily stop this boat. Poseidon's not the only ruler of the oceans. There is a Titan known as Oceanus, who is also, he was the predecessor to Poseidon. So he is the one offering protection to Dicastus and Artemis, who is basically now a fugitive of Olympus. She is thrown in with the Titans and Dicastus at this point. Well, they actually eventually go into a fog, which is created through magic from the Titans, and they find themselves at Gaia's island, the island of Gaia. And I called it in the story Gaia's Sanctuary, where Gaia is also there to not only keep them safe, offer sanctuary, but to also help Dicastus come into his own as what he is meant to be. At this point, Dicastus only has one thing on his mind, and that's he wants to kill Zeus, because Zeus killed his mother. Sounds like a crime novel, Fugitive of Olympus. Yeah, yeah, that is one way of putting it. But anyway, as he is learning more and more, other Titans come in to train him. Atlas being one, or another Titan to come in to train him, and he starts coming more and more into his power, into his strength. And it's sort of like a Dragon Ball Z kind of thing, where you're getting stronger and whatnot, and you're able to move faster and this and that. And he's getting the crap kicked out of him during a lot of this training, until he finally goes into what's known as the Titan's Rage. And yes, there's the Rage of the Titans in the God of War games from the PlayStations and whatnot, but it's on a whole different level, and I call it a Titan's Rage to avoid copyright issues. But anyway, he accidentally enters into it unwillingly, and actually gets a glazing hit on Atlas. Well, Atlas is still treating him, or not treating him with any with any kids gloves, so Atlas knocks his ass out. And Kronos and Gaia actually come in to stop Atlas, because Atlas was surprised, but also kind of pissed off because he got hit really hard, and that he hasn't been hurt in a while. So yeah, so then it's a matter over months, and unbeknownst to, or it's like a month of training thus far, and then there's a second sex scene between Artemis and Dicastus, but she then realizes after a few months from that sex scene that she's pregnant. And that's when things start to get even more interesting. It's not because of the freaky deakiness of that goes on in a little cave behind a waterfall with Dicastus and Artemis, but well, one of the bigger gods that everybody knows, Ares, knows that the Fates, he suspects that the Fates are stealing original ideas. I never heard of such a thing. Oh, wait. JJ and his crew. Yeah, I know, right? Oh, that deserves a highlight. But yeah, Ares suspects that the Fates are hiding Ouranos, and Ouranos has been hiding on the Fates or with the Fates, but they've also been weaving fate in the direction in favor of Dicastus. Well, so he can be overseer of Olympus, not the ruler of Olympus, but the overseer, so to speak. He doesn't rule, he oversees. That's his destiny, not to rule, but to oversee, or basically sort of like a manager. Now, Ouranos at this time, he's kind of sleeping because sort of like the Odin sleep in a way. I got to prepare my food, and Orange starts talking about sex. Who is this lady in the chat he wants to impress? Oh, that's a good one, man. That's a good one. But anyway, he's been training with Atlas, Kronos, and Gaia, and they've been teaching him how to further wield his powers and whatnot. Well, Ares is the god of war. This is a god who literally thrives and is fueled by battle. And when he sees Artemis is with Dicastus, and he automatically sees that there's less of a glow in Artemis. Her divine aura is actually diminished because of her broken oath. And he actually says it out loud, and he's like, you are seriously tainted, aren't you? And then he takes a threatening step towards Artemis. Well, Atlas and Kronos are both there, Titans, and they step in to fight against Ares, and this is before Dicastus even gets in there. He's about to step in or to take on Ares, but they know that he won't stand a chance, and even they don't stand a chance after a while because they eventually start getting the shit kicked out of them. Well, then after he's finished with not Apollo, but Atlas and Kronos, he takes a step towards Artemis. And that's when Dicastus loses it. He goes into his Titan rage. And basically when he does, it's sort of as if time slows down to a point where me going like this would take like 55 seconds. He grabs Ares and just launches himself out of the temple, and Ares out of the temple, and he just starts pummeling into Ares. And the way I see it, basically this fight, anybody who has seen Yu Yu Hakusho, the fight between Toguro and Yusuke in the Tournament of Power, where he's just pummeling into Toguro, it's basically that fight where he then realizes he's not reacting to his blows. He's not reacting to... So basically, you're writing good Greek mythology, fan fiction, LOL. This is a sarcastic joke. Basically, the way I see it, it is, because most Greek mythology has been known. It's been done to death. It's my original take on Greek mythology in a way that others don't know it, you know? But yes, that is basically the thing. And after Dicastus hesitates because he realizes that Ares is not reacting, well, that's when Ares takes the initiative. And Ares goes full brutality. You thought the brutality of Apollo was bad. Well, Ares is far worse. He is the god of war, after all. Ares is literally grabbing Dicastus's face. I'll use this as a reference. His face, like this, and slamming it through trees that are basically 4 or 5 feet thick and whatnot. He puts him through his paces. Let me get this back up here. He puts him through his paces. Ares literally beats the fuck out of Dicastus. put smashing his face through trees. He's basically kicking the shit out of him, and and they end up finally landing back near the Temple of the Fates, and Decastus is brutally bloodied and beaten near death, basically. And this is where, and so as Decastus is near death, well, Ares is not done. He actually can grow to bigger sizes, as all gods can. They can take on divine forms. They can grow. They can increase their mass and whatnot. Well, he does. And he steps on Decastus's leg, shattering nearly every bone in his leg. He then does the same for his opposite arm. Right leg, left arm. And then he's like, you know what? You put up a good fight, kid. You actually got my blood pumping. But you're now boring. You are pitiful. If that's the best you can do, this is nothing, kid. So he basically materializes his sword, getting ready to deliver the final blow. And that's when Ares is suddenly frozen. He can't do anything. His sword was coming down, getting ready to kill Decastus. But he finds that he can't move because there are 3 hands on him. And these are the 3 hands of the Fates. And the Fates, what they say, you cannot overpower. Not even a god of war, not even Ouranos himself can overpower the Fates. When he created the Fates, he created entities that were stronger than him. Now, the Fates basically tell Ares, it is not his fate to die by your blade. Not here, not now, not ever. And you will not harm him further than this. And Ares is like, are you sure you want to defy Olympus? And they tell him flat out, when he accuses them of defying Olympus, the Fates tell him, we are not the defiers, and we do not serve Olympus. They then cast him out where he cannot find the island. They cast him off of their island, basically. They're like, this is my house, you get the fuck out. So he basically is dematerialized back to Olympus in failure. He couldn't kill Decastus, he couldn't kill Ouranos, which was his mission there. He was sent to kill Ouranos. And if Gaia and the others hadn't shown up, he would have. But Decastus also was not supposed to be brutally beaten to that point. So then he has to spend some time to heal. And time is a fickle thing, especially on the Fates Island. Well, he heals in what he thinks is a day's time, when it's actually 2 months' time. Artemis is now showing. She's ready to give birth. And so they bring everyone's back on Gaia's Island, where they see Athena, who has found Gaia's Island. Athena is there under a truce. No fighting, no battling, no nothing. And at this point, Decastus is mentally and physically broken. Well, not physically anymore. He's healed. But he's like, how can I protect what I care for most if I cannot protect or against a god of war? And one of the Fates told him, if you want to beat a god of war, you have to become greater than war. And that's a riddle that he will have to solve later on down the road. So the internet might go out, folks, so please bear with me, just in case. In the John Carter books, John Carter is just all of a sudden immortal. What they say in the books, in my script, Sorry about that. Anyway, no problem. We know how your internet is at times. Thank you, Cameron Ryder. You are such an awesome person. Yay, stream freestyle. Oh my god. Yeah. Anyway, that was basically as far as I got in the story. But my first draft actually was completed. Basically, the child is born. Her name is Jade Elysia, as in the island of Elysium. But Elysia is her name. She was actually named after Decastus' mother, the child was. And it was a daughter before any of this identity politics crap started going around. She was meant to be a daughter because that's how I actually would prefer a daughter if I ever have kids, I would prefer to have a daughter than a son, because a son would I basically name the kid after myself. But anyway, she is born. She ages quicker because of her divine parentage, and she befriends a monster that is on Gaia's island. Well, this is the monster known as Arachne. Now everybody knows the story of Arachne, how she challenged Athena to a weaving contest. That's the original myth. But like I said, like the reasoning of my story goes, history is written by the victors, and there's two sides to every story. Well, there's a different side to this story. The story of Arachne and Athena is Arachne was one of the most devoted servants of Athena. And because she realized that Athena would grace Athens soon, as long as she's not all of the gods and calls herself Skywalker. Yeah, I know, right? But anyway, they find, or Arachne is eventually discovered and protective of the child, and she then tells them the story of how she was more of a devoted servant to Athena, and she never challenged Athena. Now, Arachne had woven a shroud of reverence to Athena to bring to Athena when she came to Athens, or all those many years ago. Yes, thank you, Soul Assassin. You're putting up the original story to Arachne. This story is different. Now, Arachne had brought her shroud to Athens, and because it was so perfect, not a stitch out of place, it was perfectly woven. Absolute perfection. Something that is supposed to be out of the hands of mortals. Well, Athena, instead of being proud of a mortal, of one of her loyal subjects, she instead curses this subject and destroys the shroud. And she makes Arachne into think Spider-Maul from Clone Wars, but human and spider instead of Zabrak and spider and whatnot. So yes, she explained it was a curse out of jealousy that led to her deformation. And yes, she is also the mother of all spiders and mythos. How you doing, Subhuman? Got a lot of people coming in, and I want to thank every single one of you guys for listening to the story. And yeah, basically because Decastus has started to heal. He started to become a family person. He has no interest in, his priorities are shifting. But they're still on Gaia's island because they're still fugitives of Olympus. Well, Zeus has sent word through Athena that they want to have a truce on neutral ground to talk about the whole prophecy. And unbeknownst to Dicastus, it is a underhanded tactic by Zeus. And they meet, and he's like, "Can I see my can I see my child or my granddaughter?" And Dicastus and Artemis are there, and they say no. And he's like, what I did was wrong. What I did to your mother was wrong. He basically is trying to humble himself before Dicastus. And he tries saying, what would you have done if somebody was a threat to your power? You know, basically trying to use logic with him. But unbeknownst to them, while they're having this conversation, Athena had been sent to take the child. And she does actually kidnap Jade, or Elysia, Jade Elysia. So was not where my first draft ended, but other Titans had heard the call of desperation, because after this phony peace truce kind of thing happened, Dicastus actually said, "You know what, I will think about it," and this and that. But when they realized that it was an underhanded tactic, Dicastus was losing it. He was in Gaia's temple when he heard the news that his daughter was taken. And he was angry enough that he was starting to dismantle the temple in his anger. And that's when Gaia basically bitch smacks him off of her own island. And when he gets back onto the beach area, she's like, "I understand you're angry, and I understand your pain and your heartache right now. But you will not, but what you are doing is not going to help." So they basically plan a rescue operation to go to Olympus and whatnot. And even Arachne goes to Olympus to help rescue the child, because she had taken a caring to the child. And she actually gets to fight Athena. This book has a lot of fights in it, folks. And it's just the first introductory book to the entire series. "Overseer of Olympus, farmer, your thunder has ruined all my crops." Zeus, "It is the will of the gods. Farmer, let me speak to your manager." Sort of, not sort of, but yeah. But anyway, that is basically the first step of the book. But because Dicastus had openly defied Zeus in one final act of defiance, Zeus lays waste to Terra Lake. Zeus literally shows, or he warned him, "If you try to stand against my power, there will be real consequences." And what he did was lay waste to everything that Dicastus had known in his life previous to all of this stuff. And he also shows him it in real time. This is happening right now, and you are the cause of it. And he has a massive tornado rip through Terra Lake, killing his friends and everybody that was completely innocent and had nothing to do with anything. Wipes them out. Well, that's where Ouranos comes in, and because he realized that his son would not stop at attacking Zeus, but he throws his own energy at Zeus, and that literally knocks Zeus off of Olympus. And he's like, "We need to go now. We have your daughter. We can get out of here." And Dicastus is angry. He's like, he has to pay for what he did, and he said he will in time. And that is basically after they finally get back. Everyone is united, but DeCastus is heartbroken because of the people of his hometown were killed, and all of the Titans, Oceanus, Atlas, and many others have actually come, and they've all pledged. Maybe it is time for us to rise again. Maybe it is time for us to take a stand against the tyranny of Olympus. But they also mourn with DeCastus because they realize that DeCastus is their hope of getting the world back into balance. And that's the end of the first book. The second book that carries on, and it's called Fate's Intervention. And in this book, DeCastus has come into his own, but it's not a fleshed out story as the first book that I just described to you guys, as much as that one was. There's even parts of the first story that I hadn't told you guys yet. But the second book, which is called Fate's Intervention, his daughter is basically a 5-year-old at this point, even though she was only born like 3 years previous. There's going to be time skips and whatnot. And Artemis is starting to feel the effects of the consequences of her actions from the first book, namely her breaking her oath. Well, Zeus eventually gets into a fight with DeCastus, and DeCastus actually has Zeus on the ropes. He's actually beating the shit out of Zeus in this book, but before he's ready to kill Zeus, which he was at this point because Zeus had taken everything from DeCastus at this point, and DeCastus has nothing but contempt for Zeus. And at the end of the book, he's ready to kill Zeus, but he's stopped by a very familiar set of 3 hands. And the Fates had stopped DeCastus just as they had stopped Ares, and basically said, it is not your fate to kill it is not your fate to lay waste to Olympus. It is your fate to show them the right path, basically. And the story continues into other books, basically to the point where Zeus is throwing everything at DeCastus, and DeCastus is slowly learning lessons to not hate Zeus, but to basically put aside what he had felt, but also remember his origins, but also not to hate Zeus completely outright. And in time, he is also outsmarting Zeus in certain areas to the point where Zeus has no choice but to empty Tartarus. He goes to the pits of Tartarus and literally just opens it up except for one cell at first. He goes down to that one cell, and it's the one cell that Zeus absolutely dreads and will not open. But in the fourth, or in the final book of that story, or of my story, he actually opens that cell. It's called Zeus's Gambit, or Zeus's Gamble, so to speak. And it's completely a desperate move because everything that has been thrown at DeCastus has failed. But there's only one thing that could possibly beat DeCastus, and it is the one thing that almost killed Zeus himself, and that is Typhon, the father of all monsters and the most brutal and destructive force that the Earth has ever known. No, Zeus's dad is not Typhon. Zeus's dad is Kronos, the Titan. Kronos' father is Ornos. But Typhon is a monster. He is the father of all monsters, just as Echidna is the mother of all monsters, like the Nemean lion and all of them. Well, DeCastus and this fight is global, folks. Basically, every landmark is going to be destroyed, and DeCastus is basically going to give everything he has to destroy or trap Typhon, because you cannot kill Typhon. Typhon is literally an immortal being that cannot be completely killed. You can kill gods, but you cannot kill Typhon. If Typhon dies, it would create an imbalance in the world that can't be recovered. And so the story basically ends because at this point Artemis she's become mortal, but she's also become sick because of her choice to love Jocasta in them. And there's the myth of the Temesian fox. The prologue or the epilogue of the entire story. The Temesian fox is a fox that has been hunted by gods and hunters alike. None can catch it. Well, one does. And if you catch the Temesian fox, you are granted one absolute wish. And Jade Alesia catches the Temesian fox. And her one wish is basically to restore Artemis to godhood, to restore her mother. And that unspoken force that is the consequence of broken oaths is basically dispelled because the Temesian fox was caught. Now, the only way that you can have this bargain with the Temesian fox, you catch it, you make your wish, you release it. Only through an act of kindness can this wish or this wish's power truly take hold. And because Jade Alesia is so pure in her life, at the end of the books, she's around 15 to 16 years old. Even though she's only like 10 years old. But she has the body of a 15 to 16-year-old because she ages a little faster. And she'll eventually, once she reaches her prime, she'll be immortal. But yes, she eventually wishes her mother's godhood to be restored. And that's basically the story in a nutshell. I mean, it has to be fleshed out into the 4 other stories and for Zeus to basically release Typhon and whatnot. But that is basically the story that I had in here for many, many years growing up, because I absolutely am a fan of Greek mythology. I love Greek mythology, Clash of the Titans, Wrath of the Titans. I liked the Percy Jackson books, the original Percy Jackson and the Olympians novels. Everything else I hadn't read after. But basically, it was those stories I loved at all. And I felt that I wanted to share it with you guys. And I'm glad that a lot of you guys actually, I'm getting a little bit of positive feedback here. Now, I think you invented a character who could be Kratos. Kind of, but not really. I mean, one of the books that takes place before the last book is where where Jocasta does finally beat Ares. I mean, he literally grabs a skyscraper and just basically does what Tony Stark does to Thanos in Infinity War, drops a square on Ares. I mean, this is a fight, or the fight between Ares is cool, but the fight between Typhon and Jocasta is way more epic. But yeah, this is a story that I've had, and believe me, yeah, I definitely should write those books. I bet they would be huge. Thing is, I'm sure they would. It's just that I'm not that good at writing. I mean, I actually had a person helping edit and whatnot, and I'll have to find somebody who was also able to do that. But yeah, Greek mythology definitely needs a comeback. Nowadays, maybe your book series would be the linchpin. Maybe, but like I said, this is a very different take on Greek mythology. It's basically an opposing Greek mythology. It's a way different Greek mythology than the actual Greek mythology. Everybody knows the Greek mythology that we all know. But like I said, there's 2 sides to every story, and history is written by the victors. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to try talking or writing more of the story now, but I want to get my laptop after and whatnot. I basically am waiting for the right time to continue it, because right now I am seriously mired in writer's block. But I'm glad that I could actually tell you guys about the story, and I'm glad that you guys actually took an interest in it. Neither am I. Worst subject to. So brother is my editor and helping me flesh out far more than I could do alone. Awesome, Maria. But yeah, anyway, folks, I am going to wrap this up. I want to thank each and every one of you. Myriasphere Origins, Soul Assassin, Happy Dino, June Bug, Mar, Soul Assassin. Thank you for being my moderator, man. How many others? Kamen Rider. Thank you, guys. Thank you all for coming in. Anybody else come in? I'm scrolling up right now. So, Fenrir Fire. Thank you for dropping by as well. You guys are all freaking awesome. And I am so happy that you guys could drop by my original current event stream that turned into a story stream. But thank you. Indeed. Channel update. I got the EU Mandalorians versus stream with the Xenomorph Army coming next Friday. Not this Friday, but next Friday, 9 p.m. I got OG Star Wars, Ryan Kinnell, and Annihilus B and Ambassador. And I'm trying to get Alien Theory. I've reached out to see if he has any interest. I haven't gotten a reply back. I had to basically put the tweet on his Twitter. But hopefully, because of his extensive knowledge, if not, I'll also reach out to another channel, maybe Altiori. She likes Xenomorphs as well, so, but she's also not a Star Wars fan. But anyway, I'm reaching out. I got one more person, but I'm holding out for Alien Theory. If he can't show, that's fine. We'll run with a 5-person panel on that night. The 1-2 weeks after that is going to be the big fight. That's basically on the scale of Goku versus Superman, but Star Wars. It's Darth Sidious Palpatine versus the original Immortal Emperor Darth Vitiate. And this is going to be Vitiate in all of his best forms. Not just the Immortal Emperor, but also Valkorion's power as well. Anyway, folks, those are the next ones that I got lined up. And I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you all for dropping by. Wait, no Canon Mandos fighting the Xenomorphs. Oh, wait, they just got face hugged. Face huggers aren't actually going to be in this one. But, yeah. But, yes, please stay tuned for that one. That's going to be 9 p.m. next Friday, Eastern Standard Time. So, if you go by a different time zone, I'm sorry if it is late. You could definitely catch it on the replay or the watch back or whatever you call it. But yeah, for the Darth Sidious versus Darth Vitiate, we might have Lethal Lightning back for that one. Lethal Lightning was on my first stream, which was Accountant versus John Wick, and that was a good one too. But anyway, thank you all for dropping by. You all, thank you so much for staying through my stream. I am very humbled by all of your kindness that you have shown and your interest in the story that I have shared with you. I might actually do another live stream that actually explains it more in detail and actually dedicate the title to that stream or to that subject, because again, this started out as a current event stream. But anyway, folks, thank you very much. And if you guys are catching this on the replay, you all know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know your thoughts down on the current events that I left. And if you like the story that I have shared, what are your thoughts on it? let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below, folks. This has been Orange Hat Reviews. And